Did you know that something that seems harmless, that simple gesture of sweetening your coffee or tea in the morning, could be silently affecting your brain and tripling your risk of dementia? Many people believe they are making a healthy choice by replacing sugar with artificial sweeteners. After all, it's calorie-free, sugar-free, lighter. But what almost no one knows is that this substitution may be accelerating memory loss and compromising lucidity over the years. I am Dr. Sofia Martin, a specialist in brain health and healthy aging. For over 20 years, I have been following men and women who, even though they take care of their diet, sleep, and routine, have begun to notice strange forgetfulness, such as walking into a room and not remembering what they were going to do or leaving their keys in absurd places. These small lapses seemed normal, but in many cases they hid something that science now understands very well. Certain modern sweeteners are directly and silently interfering with brain function. In the next few minutes, I want to show you something that could really change the way you view your routine. I want you to understand why what seems like an innocent habit may be creating fertile ground for brain inflammation, mental confusion, and even an increased risk of dementia. Most importantly, there is a logical, scientific, and accessible explanation. And above all, there is a simple way to reverse this starting today. Many of my patients came to my office with the same dilemma. They wanted to take care of themselves and avoid sugar, but ended up falling into a trap created by the food industry itself. And when they realized it, they were already living with a tired mind, increasingly frequent forgetfulness, and a constant feeling of mental fog. Now tell me here in the comments which city or country you are watching us from. I love to know how far this message reaches. Take the opportunity to share this video with someone you love who also needs to take care of their health. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you will understand what really happens inside your brain when you consume this type of sweetener, and discover the essential step to protect your memory before it's too late. Many people tell me that they started to experience minor memory lapses and thought it was just fatigue, everyday stress, or maybe age. And I understand. We wake up already thinking about our tasks, rush through breakfast, and grab our cell phones before we even take a deep breath. We live on autopilot, and this autopilot gradually disconnects the mind from the body. The problem is that when the brain is not listened to, it begins to send signals, subtle at first, but increasingly insistent. Perhaps you have already experienced that sudden mental confusion, the famous blank in the middle of a conversation, or the forgetting of a simple word that was on the tip of your tongue. Many people think this is normal, part of the hustle and bustle, but I have to tell you, the brain doesn't forget without reason. It's just trying to adapt to an imbalance that, in most cases, starts with our simplest choices. I see this often in my patients, attentive people who eat well, try to avoid sugar, and yet come to me with complaints of mental fatigue, irritability, and memory lapses. When we analyze our daily lives, we realize that many habits considered healthy hide small mistakes. A sweetener here, a zero soda there, a light dessert after lunch. Automatic gestures that seem harmless, but over time create fertile ground for the body to react in ways we cannot even imagine. It's like a gear that starts to jam slowly. At first, we hardly notice it, but with each small friction, the system loses efficiency. And suddenly, you notice that your mind no longer has the same sparkle, that your focus is easily dispersed, that your reasoning takes longer to arrive. This is not just age. It is your brain asking for help, begging for balance. Behind this forgetfulness and silent slowness lies a factor that is much more common than you might think. And it may be hidden in the very things you believe you are doing to take care of yourself. What many people don't realize is that inside our bodies, every simple, everyday choice triggers a chain reaction. When we put artificial sweetener in a cup of coffee, for example, the brain doesn't understand that it's not real sugar. It reacts as if it were, releasing substances, adjusting hormones, and preparing the body for something that, in practice, never arrives. It's as if the brain receives a promise of energy and waits in vain. Over time, this cycle of deception confuses brain cells and alters communication between neurons. It's as if the wires in an electrical network began to lose contact, causing small failures in signal transmission. This interference is silent but constant. You don't feel pain, you don't see anything different in the mirror, but inside you, the electrical impulses that carry thoughts, memories, and emotions begin to circulate with less clarity. Have you ever noticed that feeling of a cloudy mind, as if your reasoning takes longer to kick in? It's your body trying to warn you. But here's the point that almost no one talks about. When digested, aspartame turns into compounds that can increase inflammation and generate a type of chemical stress within the brain. Imagine an entire city operating under a thick fog. The traffic signs are still there, but drivers can't see clearly. This is how a brain under inflammation works. Ideas still exist, but accessing them becomes slower, more confusing, and more tiring. And there's more. The gut, which many call the second brain, is also affected. The continuous use of certain sweeteners alters the balance of good bacteria that produce substances essential for mood, energy, and memory. That's why, in addition to forgetfulness, so many people report irritation, anxiety, or that constant fatigue that seems to have no explanation. Have you ever felt this? As if your body and mind were no longer in sync? This is exactly when the body starts to ask for help, discreetly, but insistently. Because the brain doesn't age overnight. It gives signs, small warnings that add up until something more serious happens. And when we understand what's behind these signs, everything starts to make sense. Forgetfulness isn't just distraction. It's the brain trying to protect itself from something that is slowly poisoning it. By understanding this process, I began to observe something in my own patients that made me rethink many habits that previously seemed harmless. I remember Carmen, 72, a cheerful, vain, and disciplined woman. Every day, she ate her breakfast of low-fat yogurt and sugar-free sweetener, believing she was taking care of her health. When she came to my office, she complained of memory lapses, difficulty concentrating, and a constant feeling of mental fatigue. At first, we thought it might just be the natural stress of aging. But after a few simple changes, such as eliminating artificial sweeteners and prioritizing more natural foods, within a few weeks, she began to notice mental clarity, more energy, and even an improvement in her mood. Cases like Carmen's are common. Manuel, 68, retired, used to drink 0 soft drinks believing he was protecting his heart. When he began to experience confusion while driving and forgetfulness in the middle of conversations, we did a complete review of his diet. We discovered that he had been consuming aspartame daily for over 10 years. We reduced his consumption, adjusted his diet, and little by little, his brain began to respond again. His eyes regained their sparkle. His speech became more steady. These transformations remind me that the human body has an extraordinary capacity for regeneration when we stop exposing it to what weakens it. And science has confirmed what previously seemed like mere intuition. A study published by the Harvard School of Public Health noted that people who frequently consumed artificially sweetened beverages were at greater risk of cognitive decline over time. In 2023, the World Health Organization also warned about the continued use of sweeteners, pointing out that they can interfere with metabolism and even increase the risk of neurological diseases when used chronically. These data are not alarmist. They are signs that we need to look at what we put into our bodies with more awareness and respect. What strikes me is how small details can change the course of an entire life. Often, it is not the big mistake that damages the brain, but the small habit repeated every day. That just a little bit that seems harmless and, over time, silently shapes the functioning of the mind. Every choice leaves a mark. Every meal is a message that the brain understands. And what seemed like just a detail turned out to be one of the biggest keys to preserving not only the brain, but also memory, vitality, and ultimately, the very story of who we are. Once you understand all this, it becomes clearer why so many people feel they are slowing down as they age, even though they are trying to do everything right. It's not just about what we eat or don't eat, but about what those choices communicate to the brain every day. The body is an intelligent system, and every decision, no matter how small it may seem, sends a message. When we insist on habits that inflame, confuse, and exhaust our cells, the brain responds. And it always speaks, even if silently, in the form of mental fatigue, forgetfulness, irritation, or lack of focus. Science explains it, but life confirms it. It's not just about aging with physical health, but about keeping the mind alert, lucid, connected to what gives meaning to existence. The brain is what allows us to recognize a loved one's face, remember a story, plan for the future. When it starts to fail, it's as if the world loses its colors. That's why protecting the brain is more than a medical issue. It's an act of self-love and respect for one's own history. Many of my patients tell me, "Doctor, I thought everything was fine. I just wanted to take care of myself." And that phrase touches me because it shows how good the intention is, but the information still comes across distorted. The industry sells quick health promises, and we believe them because we want easy results. But the body doesn't understand shortcuts. It understands balance, consistency, and truth. And the truth is that every small choice, every label read, every conscious substitution is a way to reprogram the brain to function in harmony again. It's not about guilt, it's about awareness. Every small choice you make at night can be an investment or a risk for tomorrow. When you understand what's going on inside, something changes on the outside. A sense of quiet power emerges, the certainty that you can take care of yourself in an intelligent and loving way. And that's exactly how I want you to feel. Imagine waking up with a clear mind, a sharp memory, without that fog that has been with you for years. Imagine regaining your energy, clarity, and presence. It is possible. Now that you understand the causes, I want to show you, step by step, how to turn that knowledge into action. Because real change begins when information finds the heart and turns into practice. Now that you understand why this happens, let's talk about what can be done starting today. Taking care of your brain doesn't have to be complicated. It just requires awareness and consistency. The first step is simple. Look at what you consume every day. Read labels carefully, especially those products that seem healthy. If you find names like aspartame, sucralose, acesulfame K, saccharin, or cyclamate, try to replace them. You don't have to change everything at once. Start slowly, replacing the sweetener in your coffee with a natural alternative, such as pure stevia, a small amount of honey, or even ripe fruit in recipes. The body responds when it is cared for with patience. Give preference to real foods, those that come from the earth and not from packaging. The fewer ingredients a product has, the better it will be for your brain. Hydrate well, exercise daily, and get enough sleep. The brain needs oxygen, rest, and nutrition, not just information. And remember, thoughts also nourish or poison. Choose what you read, what you watch, and the conversations you have. All of this directly influences mental health. These simple changes are powerful because they accumulate silent results. Every day you avoid an unnecessary chemical compound, your body thanks you. Every more natural meal is a message of love sent to your own brain. And the future begins precisely in these small gestures, in the choice you make in the morning, in the care that no one sees, but that transforms everything inside. I know it may seem difficult at first, but the brain has a biological memory of healing. When you respect it, it responds with more clarity, energy, and balance. Prevention is a long-term investment, and time always rewards those who choose to take care of themselves. Now tell me here in the comments which city or country you are watching us from. I like to know how far this message reaches. And if this content helped you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you love. That way, more people can learn to take better care of their health. Because a healthy brain is the foundation of a lucid, full, and truly free life.